Guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today we're going to give our thoughts on Midnight Mass. We just finished it.
Like we said in our first video, we were really enjoying this series. We wanted to take it a little bit slower instead of just binging it entirely in one sitting. So we broke it out over the course of like a whole week. And I have to say, I think it's one of my favorite shows of the year, if not my favorite show this year.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this show. I just wanted to keep watching. And I was like, I got to pause myself because once this is over, what am I going to watch next?
Yeah. So I have to say, again, Mike Flanagan made a phenomenal series. For me, it is right up there with The Haunting of Hill House. They're really close to each other. Blind Manor's a little bit lower, but still a quality show. But man, I was really surprised. Like I said in the first video, I did not expect the show to be about vampires. I thought it was going to be a completely different thing with ghosts or demons or something like that. But like I said, it really draws on the monsters that are just regular people. And that's one of the things that he does really well in his shows is while it does have supernatural elements and you are drawn in by, vampires and ghosts and things like that, it shows that regular people sometimes are the worst out of anything.
Yeah, and honestly, the standout character to me in the series is Father Paul.
Yeah.
He is just so good in this show.
Yeah, like we said in the first video, the performance from the actor that plays Father Paul is amazing. He's able to really skirt the line between being a very unlikable character to someone you're sympathetic to by the end of the show. So like I said in the first one, we're going to talk a lot of spoilers in this review because we're talking about our thoughts on the entire show. So I will say right now there's going to be a lot of spoilers. So I'm going to talk about the ending of the show right now, which involves Father Paul and kind of his arc completely coming to a close. And I think that was one of the best aspects of the entire show, was him coming from an idea of being almost like a savior, like a flawed savior in the beginning, to being and overall one of the most human characters in the entire show.
Father Paul at the end feels a lot of remorse. He feels that what he did is like just the most wrong and sinful thing at the end.
Yeah, because like we talked about before, when you deal with Bev, she's actually the real villain on the show. You realize by the end she's the one who's kind of orchestrating all these terrible things and almost in a way manipulating Father Paul into being the character that he is. So you see that hard conflict at the end. I think the last episode does a really good job of wrapping everything up when it comes to the characters because, like Noelle said, Father Paul realizes what he did was wrong and he's trying to, fix that. And he realizes by the end it's too long. I mean, everything's happened. There's nothing they can do to stop it. And you see that Bev is just a monster.
I thought one of the most impactful scenes is when Riley Flynn takes Aaron out on the boat. We ended off with the 4th episode where he looks like he's dead.
Yeah, he gets attacked by the vampire.
But Father Paul revives him and goes down this long journey with him, talking about like this is, he can change his life. He can not feel guilty anymore about what he did in his past.
Yeah, that conversation in particular really does show Father Paul's motives, because in the beginning you think he's just some guy that is trying to make everybody vampires and he's a bad guy, and then you see kind of his back thought behind why he's doing what he's doing and his internal struggles. So I think it's interesting that conversation kind of clears up that whole aspect of the show.
But Riley takes it upon himself. He goes and says, this isn't right. This shouldn't be happening. And he basically sacrifices his life to prove to Aaron what happened in the situation. Because if you just go to a normal person and say there's a vampire on the island, who's going to really believe you?
Yeah.
So they go out on the sailboat. They go out on the rowboat, and the sun comes up and he turns to dust. And this is where Aaron takes on the responsibility to seek out what Riley was trying to do and save the town.
Yeah. And one of the things that's really interesting also about that is that Mike Flanagan has this ability to subvert expectations when it comes to the story. Because like I said in the last time we reviewed it, is that you don't know why Riley's being attacked. He's a main character. Like, is he dead? Is it over? And then he comes back just to be killed anyway, like the following episode. So I thought that keeps the audience on its toes and also gives you an emotional investment with Aaron. Because while Aaron is a good character in the first few episodes, this really kind of shifts it from Riley being the main character to Aaron being mostly the main character as the protagonist throughout the rest of the story.
There's a real pivotal scene at the end of the 6th episode. That is when everything hits the fan. You are in Easter Vigil, and it's at midnight, and everybody's coming there, and Father Paul's promising this huge surprise. And what they're not expecting is the vampire walking with the hat and the coat. It's just so, like, scary and terrifying. And I can't even imagine being in those pews, like, you're seeing this creature come up. And this is where everybody starts, really...
figure it out, comes together,
yes. And then there's this nasty plan that everybody basically decides to kill themselves because they want to live this other like life fantasy
Yeah.
that Father Paul has been promising them, and Bev kind of persuades everybody.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is really well done, in particular with that scene, is it feels very long and drawn out to just build tension.
Hmm.
Because as an audience, you kind of know what's happening, and it's slowly coming together. You realize, hey, he's gonna try and kill everybody.
Hmm.
Like he's gonna make everyone kill themselves and like attack each other. So like you as an audience know that, and it builds that tension. And then finally, when you see the vampire show up, you're like, okay, this is what's happening. Is this actually really what's gonna happen on this show? So the fact that they took it there, I think, was a good testament for the story because, like I said, it builds this emotional tension of these characters just to come to this like really huge climax.
There's a surprising twist at the end. Father Paul has always, throughout each episode's gone to Milford and done a service for her because she was elderly and everything. But then she's been having this Benjamin Button effect, where she's been getting younger each time. Well, it turns out Milford was a love interest to Father Paul way back when, and they had a daughter, Sarah. So that was just also little thing he wanted to do because he wanted to be with her,
Yeah.
and so it was a nice like little thing at the end because I wasn't expecting that at all.
I will say, in my opinion, I think that's one of the few flaws of the entire show. Is I feel like that random little subplot was thrown in like the last 20 minutes of the entire series. So I feel like you could have built that up. In hindsight, now that I know that and I go back and watch the series, it may add something to it. But the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, we're just throwing in this random thing that apparently he loved this woman and the doctors
But
now.
they do touch on it. We just weren't paying attention because we just thought like, oh, he's just talking. But he's like, I have so much to tell you when he goes and meets her, and like she smiles, recognizes his face and everything.
Yeah, I do. I do think in hindsight it works for the
Uh,
show, but it really could have been a very well fleshed out storyline
mhm.
between that because it really adds an emotional aspect to Father Paul's character because he feels like an outsider on the island, but then you realize that he has these connections, and I think that would have really helped escalate the show, like that conflict. But like you said, in hindsight, I think it works now. But for me, when I first watched it, I'm like, wait, why are they just throwing this in here at the last minute? And then, of course, the daughter dies and all this stuff. So that emotional impact is like, oh wow. But if I would have had that built up through the entire show, that moment in particular might have been even more powerful, in my opinion. It's like I feel like the last part of the episode where everyone's dying and everyone's kind of accepting their own fate, those are really powerful moments. Whether it's the sheriff and his son, bowing before the end when they're burning up and all that's happening, and then Bev's scrambling to try and bury herself under the ground like a creature, and then just everything have Erin's long story where she's thinking of Riley and what death means and how you can embrace it, and I just think all those moments really brought it together.
So I really enjoyed Midnight Mass. If you haven't checked it out on Netflix, I highly suggest it. If you're a big fan of Hill House or Bly Manor, this ranks up for me. It's very comparable to Hill House for me. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I love the story, just the cinematography, just everything about it. It was just so unique and different.
Yeah, one of the things I like about it is I feel like if you're someone who didn't like Hill House or Bly Manor, this is so different from those
Hmm.
shows as far as plot lines and story that I think you could like it if you don't like those other shows. Because Hill House and Bly Manor feel very similar to each other because they both deal with ghosts and grief and loss. While this does deal with kind of the same themes, it's completely different in its structure. And in my opinion, I think I really liked it because it gave me feelings of some of the movies I liked when I was younger, like 30 Days of Night. If you've ever seen that film, it feels like that on a level, obviously more sophisticated and well put together. But I love the idea of this island and the vampires. It's so different, like Noelle said. So you don't see a lot of shows like this. So we loved it, and I really think everyone should check it out if they can.
Yeah, if you have checked it out, let us know your thoughts down below. Remember to like and subscribe, and we always appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.